we still want to find a way to get in a space of gratitude. Or maybe, Father, we're grateful because it was an incredible week and we just want to make sure we've acknowledged your role in that. And so we begin the week in front of us with a prayer of gratitude, or maybe a request that you would help us become grateful. And Father, as we enter into our study time together, as we open your word, we want to ask for the same two things we ask for every week. First is clarity. We want to understand what it is we're reading. We want to know how it applies to who we are. And the second ask is courage. That if we could become clear on your expectations for us, would you give us the courage to do something about it? We ask these two things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen. Let's talk, as we jump in, about the benefits of having friends, right? The benefits of having friends. Now, I think all of us are probably fairly, it could just be me, but I'm just going to take a little leap here and just say, hey, there's probably some commonality that all of us are looking for benefits that we receive with friends. Now, to be clear, I'm not talking about friends with benefits. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the benefits we receive from friends. And specifically, when we think through this, there's one in particular that I've been searching for my entire golfing life. That is a friend that can extend me the benefit of playing at Augusta National. I've been looking for this friend. I've been searching hardcore for this particular friend that is a member at such a prestigious place that maybe we could be good friends. And somehow, one day, I would receive a phone call that says, you know what? We're going to Augusta. You don't go to Augusta for anything else. There's nothing else there. I mean, there's other things there, but you don't go all the way to Augusta for anything else. But Augusta National, play the Masters, you know what I'm talking about? That particular thing, if you have no idea what I'm talking about, I'm not sure if we're ever going to be friends. You know what I'm saying? You got to be a member. It's super exclusive. They don't even publish the member list, so I can't even go find a member to try and be friends with. I don't know. Sure enough, that's one of those benefits I would love to have in such a friend. Maybe you got a few of those things that you look for in friends, right? I mean, isn't that what friends are for? To get something from, right? Isn't that what friends are for? I mean, according to the Mayo Clinic, who takes a little more scientific approach to friendship than clearly I am. I'm just single-minded. This is what they say the benefits of friendship are. The first one is it increases your sense of belonging and purpose. So if you can get some friends, you're gonna find an increase of belonging and purpose. That's a pretty good benefit. Like, that's legit. The second one is it will boost your happiness. So if you got a happiness score, let's say it's like a 70 or a 65, something like that. And then you get some friends, you're supposed to see a boost in that happiness score. It doesn't say what the boost is going to be. Again, this is just psychologists putting this together. But there's going to be a boost, a discernible difference in your happiness score if you had some friends. Friends reduce your stress. I don't know what kind of friends they're talking. My friends typically don't reduce my stress, but you know. But evidently, according to the Mayo Clinic, they reduce your stress. Number 4, they improve your self-confidence and self-worth. Come on, let's go. You know, you need a little pick-me-up, a little shot in the arm, get yourself some friends. That's what they'll give to you. Number 5, they help you cope with trauma. Yeah, of course. You go through something difficult, and a friend is there to help you process that, talk it out. That's a positive thing. That's an incredible thing, right? When we think through those benefits, right? Sense of belonging, purpose, happiness, relief of stress or reduces stress, self-confidence, self-worth, helping with trauma. When you say, hey, these are the benefits that friends across the board will give you, according to the Mayo Clinic, all of us are like, yeah, we want that. Sign us up. This is great. We would love to be a part of that. We want friendship. This would be fantastic. Here's the thing, though. When we think through this, when we think through Augusta National, or we think through this Mayo Clinic thing, we get caught in a little bit of a trap that leads us to a place that's fairly unhealthy. And here's the truth about it, though. Friendship isn't about getting, it's about giving. Isn't that right? Isn't that the case? Isn't friendship supposed to be about giving, not about getting? Even more so when we talk about the type of friends we started to talk about last week. If you weren't here last week, let me walk you through a little bit and just catch you up. So we looked at a couple surveys of Americans last week that came to a couple conclusions. The first conclusion was 9 out of 10 of us say we've got friends, right? So it's 88%, but like 9 out of 10 of us, we round up, 9 out of 10 of us say we've got friends. However, we also say that 1 out of 3 of us, right? So like 36% was the actual number. So 1 out of 3 of us often and recently feel incredibly lonely, right? So 9 out of 10 of us got friends. However, a third of us, which is a lot of that 9 out of 10 people, are absolutely lonely. Now, how can we have friends, like 90% of us got friends, but still a third of us are incredibly lonely? Recurring loneliness. How is that possible? Well, last week we discovered it's because we're not actually looking for friends. That's not actually what we need. A friend is defined as a person whom one knows and whom one has a bond of mutual affection. That's a friend. Someone you know and you have a bond of mutual affection. And so what a friend becomes for us is you like the Braves, I like the Braves, and now we're friends, right? Now we're friends. That's the way it works. It's whatever you talk around the coffee pot at work or the water cooler at work or fill in the blank of whatever euphemism you need to use. Like wherever that happens, right? Whatever that common bond is, now we've got it. You grew up in this place. I grew up in that place. Let's talk about it. Oh, well, now we're friends. Facebook has even helped us with this. I've got thousands of friends. I don't know if y'all knew that or not. I got thousands of friends. You know what I'm saying? And our mutual bond is, I don't know. I guess that all of us have Facebook. I think that's probably, with some people that I'm friends with on Facebook, I don't know another bond, right? But sure enough, even when I post things, like hundreds of people will like it. So I've got friends. But the thing is so do all of you. All of you the same thing. In fact, there's probably most of you that's got more than thousands of friends on Facebook. Like you got almost a limit, like 5,000 people that are your friend. We don't need friendship. We actually are not looking for someone who we know that that creates a bond of mutual affection, right? We're not looking for, you like the Braves, I like the Braves, and now we're friends. Let's make it Facebook official, right? No, we're looking for something deeper than that. The biblical word that we arrived at last week, this biblical concept is that we need friends that are in fellowship. We need fellowship. Fellowship is what we're looking for. A fellowship is defined as this: a friendship with a depth of a common calling and inheritance. A friendship with a depth of common calling and inheritance. Calling and inheritance has nothing to do with the sports team. It has nothing to do with the weather outside or where you work or any of the other things. Calling and inheritance is something much deeper than all of those things. And the truth is when we can find relationships that has the depth of common calling and inheritance, when we can find those kind of relationships, we're not finding ourselves saying we're incredibly lonely, because those types of friendships don't let loneliness become your friend. That's the way it works. However, Braves fan to Braves fan and Facebook official, sometimes we will have the tendency to not even know you've become friend with loneliness. We didn't even know. And why didn't we know? Because we're just Facebook official. We're just Braves fans in passing, right? Go Dogs. You bark, I bark. And that's it, right? You sing Rocky Top and I boo at you, but we're still friends because that kind of thing. But there's nothing beyond that, right? And so when that's the level, and there's nothing wrong with that. Don't get me wrong. There is nothing wrong with any of that. Like, we need those kind of interactions. However, if we want a solution to the loneliness friend, it's not going to come through those kind of friendships. It's going to come from the fellowship side of friendships. A common calling and inheritance. The depth of a common calling and inheritance. And when we take a look at that type of relationship, there's 3 things that always take place in those relationships. And so what I want to give you is a biblical formula for you to begin to evaluate Hey, am I checking the box on these three things to help create this depth that we're looking for? Or for you to actually do a little bit of introspective work and say, am I checking these three boxes for someone else? If friendship is supposed to be about giving and not getting, am I actually providing these three things for somebody else? And then you'll be able to answer the question, because maybe you're sitting here like, maybe we're friends? Like maybe I think I've got that depth of calling and inheritance with this person. But then if you see that you're missing two out of these three things, yeah, you think you got it. But the thing is, all of those type of friendships are going to have these three things. The first one, here it is. Good friends challenge. Good friends challenge. Now, this means that good friends see you. Now, I don't mean they see you as in they set their eyes on you. I mean, good friends see you. They know you, right? And because they see you and because they know you, they're willing to challenge you. Good friends believe in you. And they believe in you because they see you and they know you. And as they've gotten to know you and they started to see you and they begin to get in your life, they begin to believe in you. And that belief causes them some tension inside to say, you know what, when I see something that doesn't line up with what I know to be true of who you are because I see you and I know you, when I begin to see some things that are in your life that don't line up with the values that you say you want to instill as a father or as a husband or as a wife or as a sister, as a brother, a community member, fill in the blank, whatever the role is, when I begin to see those things in your life, because I see you and because I know you and because I believe in you, I will have to challenge you. I'm going to have to. I can't sit still and not challenge you. Like there's just something in me that just won't let me just say nothing. I've got to do something about it. There's a book that we're going to walk a lot through some little sayings today that are from the Bible. It's found in a book called Proverbs. And Proverbs is part of a section of the Bible that is referred to as wisdom literature. And so it's got all of this really practical advice and information for our everyday lives. And almost anything that you can kind of walk through, it's got sections to help you process wise decisions and wise ways to think through and to process how you interact with your world. And Proverbs, in particular, has a good number of things about relationships, both between a husband and a wife and between friends. In particular, the first place that I want to begin is in this place of challenging. It's found in Proverbs 27:17. It says this, as iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another. In other words, when we challenge one another in a depth of friendship that's bigger than just, again, the surface level, the hope of that is not to challenge you to embarrass you. It's not to challenge you to make you feel bad about yourself. It's not a challenge you to one-up you. It's not a challenge you to do any of those things. It's a challenge you. I want to challenge you because I want to make you better. Iron sharpens iron, one man. In other words, there's a sharpening that's happening. In other words, if you look at something that's not sharp, it's dull. It's still the same thing. It just doesn't function as well as it possibly could. And so when you challenge or put some friction into it, when you begin to sharpen one another, you are making them a better version of what they are. You're not changing who they are. You're simply making them better. And good friends are saying, hey, here's the deal. I'm going to be the person who can't sit by without challenging you. Because I see you, and I know you, and I believe in you. And so I'm going to challenge you. Again, in Proverbs, same chapter. Better is open rebuke than hidden love. Wounds from a friend can be trusted, but an enemy multiplies kisses. In other words, he's saying, hey, look, you want to be challenged, even if the challenge creates a bit of a wound, right? Even if the challenge makes a bit of a wound, right? Like you're like, oh, that stings a little bit. Like, what? Ooh, did you have to bring that up? You know, that makes me a little tense. It makes me a little uncomfortable. I don't appreciate you looking at me I don't appreciate you seeing me the way you are completely seeing me. Like you are seeing too much right now because now you are poking me into a place that does not feel good, right? On the other side, we've got these other kind of friends, right? These meh friends, like, you know? Meh friends don't want to offend you. They tell themselves, oh, it's not my business. I'm not getting into it, right? And they tell themselves, who am I to judge, right? And I'll tell you, let's just be honest, okay? Some of you might just get up and walk out, but we're just going to be honest, right? This idea of let's not judge one another is the dumbest thing on the planet. Number one, it's unbiblical, 100%, and I'll fight any of you on it, right? It doesn't say that. Yeah, for sure, it says, hey, let's not get into telling people who's going to heaven and who's going to hell. We're not going to do that. Like that's for sure not your job to do that. And for sure, it's also clear that people who are outside of the faith, that are disconnected from Jesus, I can't put expectations on them to act like, now it doesn't change the truth, but if they don't follow Jesus, why would I expect their behavior to look like they follow Jesus? So for sure on that. However, people who follow Jesus, 100%, the Bible not only said it's okay, they encourage you, demand that you and I judge one another, right? That you and I judge one another. Because challenging one another through the judgment of being able to say, hey, you know what? This doesn't line up with our values. What's going on here? How do I arrive at that conclusion without me judging? Without me saying, I looked at your behavior and it doesn't align with anything that we believe. What happened? Come on, let's talk about it. Let's sit down and have some conversation about this. There's judgment involved there. And that's a biblical concept. And so if you're a follower of Jesus, 100%. That's why we get out of it though. Because we've convinced everybody Jesus says don't judge, just love. No, he doesn't. No, he doesn't. He doesn't say that at all. We've manipulated his words. And the result of that is no one's held accountable even when they want to be held accountable. You know how many people are struggling and they just want someone who cares about them to say, hey, stop it. You're better than this. I believe in you. Stop. In fact, there's probably a ton of percentage in this room that would beg for someone just to be frustrated at their bad behavior, but nobody is. And so you just keep doing what you're doing because you've convinced yourself, well, I ain't hurting nobody else and nobody else cares, so I'm just going to keep, for 5 or 10 minutes a day, it feels all right, so I'm just going to keep heading down this road. And you know it's not a good road, and you would just love for someone to call you on it, but you can't figure out the step to take. But this kind of depth of friendship says, hey, I'm a good friend. I'm going to challenge you. I'm going to leverage what you and I both know to be true about who we are supposed to be and the values that we are supposed to adhere our lives to. And I'm going to step in even when it's uncomfortable and say, hey, let's talk. Let's talk about this. Good friends not only challenge, good friends are present. Good friends are present. Good times, bad times, happy times, sad times, times of mourning, times of celebration, that they're present. There's a really good example of this. It's also in the section of the Bible that we refer to as the Old Testament. And in fact, there's an entire book that's dedicated to the story of this one guy. It's a really long story, 40-something, maybe 48 chapters. I guessed at it at the 9. I should have looked it up. It's 40-something chapters. If I had to put money on it, it's 48. But somewhere in there, 40-something chapters, I think. Doesn't matter. It's a long story is what I'm saying. So I can't summarize the whole thing, but I do want to tell you the beginning of it. There's a guy named Job. Job loses everything. He loses his kids. They're gone. They're dead. He loses his wealth, his resources, finances. They're gone. It's gone. He loses it all. Bankrupt. He loses his health, right? Everything starts to decline, and he is like health is gone. So no health, no children, no finances. They're all gone. And he has some friends that show up. And here's a beautiful picture. His friends show up at the beginning of this loss, and they come and they just sit with him for 7 days. And they don't say anything. They just sit in silence for 7 days. Because what do you say to someone who's just lost all of their children, who's just lost all of their finances, who is losing their health, decaying in front of you? What do you say to somebody in that moment? And it just happens like this. Like not over a long period of time, just boom, 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 right? What do you say? There's no words. We haven't been equipped with words to say. And they just go and do what good friends do. They just sit. Like, I have no idea what you're going through, but I'm going to try as best I can to understand by just being next to you while you continue to walk through something that's just unfathomable. Now, they ruin it because, like just after 7 days, they start talking, and then they start blaming him about, like, it's your fault. If you had just done a little bit better, if you'd been a little nicer guy, if you'd followed God a little better, none of this would happen, that whole thing, right? But the beginning, presence, is powerful. Proverbs 18:24 says this: one who has unreliable friends soon comes to ruin, but there is a friend who sticks closer than a brother. One who has unreliable friends soon comes to ruin, but there is a friend who sticks closer than a brother. In other words, like, sometimes it's like, golly, couldn't your granddad have chosen to die some other week? Because I already had things planned this week. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't have time to go and do this with you, Well, let me just shoot him a text. We'll shoot him a text. They'll be fine, right? That's not what happens with these kind of friends, right? Meh friends are just like, man, so inconvenient. So inconvenient for me right now that they actually need friends. Why can't they need friends later when my schedule opens up a little bit? But that's not the way real friendship works, or deep friendship works. That's not the way fellowship works. That kind of inconvenience, that kind of dedication and love and care and affection, it's not afraid of being inconvenienced. It doesn't mean that it's not inconvenient. It just means that the inconvenience isn't more important than the person they have the deep relationship with. When we talk about presence, it's one of the greatest gifts that we can give. It's better than flowers and jewelry. It's better than the right words at the right time. It's better than all those things. Just being there. Being available. The kind of friends that we're needing, the kind of friends that we're chasing down, the kind of friends that run off the friend of loneliness are friends who are willing to be present, even when it's inconvenient. Good friends give grace. Because the truth is, we jack things up, don't we? Like, we mess some stuff up. And good friends give grace. Proverbs 17:9 says this about it: whoever would foster love covers an offense, but whoever repeats the matter separates close friends. Whoever would foster love covers an offense, but whoever repeats the matter separates close friends. In other words, he's saying, hey, here's the deal. In this kind of depth of friendship, what we're looking for is grace for moments that we've made big mistakes. We're saying, hey, you know what? I got grace for that. I'm not here to crucify you or put you on blast or any of those things. I'm here because I see you and I know you and I've got some grace for you, right? Now, the tension that we live in is that the first thing that good friends do is they challenge one another when they need to be challenged. Now, how do you challenge someone and at the same time extend grace towards someone? How do you step in and judge, right? Where you judge, you know what, I'm seeing something that doesn't fit into what you have even said yourself of the values you want to live by and the things that you want to hold yourself to and those standards. How do we step in those moments and say, hey, let's have a conversation while at the same time extending grace? That's tough. Typically, we're really good at one thing or the other. We're really good at grace, and a lot of times our grace is just, let's pretend it didn't happen, and we're going to call that grace. I'm just going to completely ignore that you just said that about that friend that we mutually have, and I'm just going to chalk that up to grace. I got a lot of grace today. Not going to acknowledge it at all. My lack of accountability, I'm going to check that off as grace. my decision to not be uncomfortable and talk to you about the thing, I'm going to count that as grace. The behavior that you're in, that you and I both know is headed for destruction, like you can't undo this, I'm not going to say anything because I don't want you to be mad at me. You're going to be mad at whoever says it to you. It ain't going to be me. I'm going to count this now as grace. So we got that one side, or we're the other side. We're the challenge. Where we got challenged, we got no grace. Where it's like, hey, here's the deal. My wife says I can't hang out with you no more if you're still doing this foolishness. Right? So get it together. Call me back when you're done. Or it's, man, you're not the same person anymore. You're no good for me anymore. When you get your act together, let me know. Until then, you're just dragging me down. And in our minds, it's like, challenge. Challenge. The thing is that we have to be able to do 1, 2, and 3 at the same time. We've got to be able to challenge and be present and extend grace simultaneously. So how do you do that? How do you mix challenge with grace? Isn't it, if we really think about it, isn't it in the intent and the outcome that we're hoping for? Isn't that typically where the grace comes from? Because a lot of times the challenge without grace is more about winning the argument than it is changing a person's mind or life or direction. If we just want them to know that they have jumbled into or stumbled into some bad behavior and we want them to acknowledge it and we want to win this argument, then we simply bring it up and say, hey, checkmate, gotcha, right? Now that's one thing, except for we're not really playing the right form of chess then, are we? We're trying to win the game right now in this particular argument. You've done something wrong. I need to challenge you on it, and so I'm going to win the game now. That's not really the approach we're supposed to be taking, though. The chess game that we play with people, if we need that analogy, is long-term, life all-encompassing, not moment to moment. And so when we take an opportunity to have a conversation with someone, it's one single move towards a lifetime of playing the game together. It's not just I want to beat you in this moment so that I can chalk up a victory or a little mark on my belt buckle, right? That's not what we're doing. It's like, hey, I'm invested in this more because you and I are good friends. So I'm not just trying to make you understand you're wrong. It's because I see you and I know you and I believe in you. And so the heart behind what my challenge is, I just want to help. I'm not here to prove you're wrong. I'm here to help you take steps towards right. Meh friends, on the other hand, they substitute grace for gossip. Both start with a G, both very different things. And that's what friends do, right? You know what I'm talking about? Like it's one of those moments where they're aware of the situation, and instead of extending some grace towards you, they decide the best way for me to get grace is for me to go share it with some other people that really enjoy juicy details. And I'm going to disguise that with, well, I knew you needed other people to pray for you, so I told them all of the juicy details so that they could inform God better than if all of us are praying about your juicy details, then that makes God way more informed, right? And then I also told them, if you happen to know anyone else who likes details such as these details, feel free. Maybe, like, here we go, right? And then that's where we're at. And then gossip happens. Notice, whoever repeats the matter separates close friends. Whether that's repeating the action over and over again and not correcting it, or whether it's taking the details and repeating it to other people. Either way, repeating the matter, what does it say? Separates close friends. Yeah, maybe if you're evaluating your life, maybe for some of us, we're like, man, what happened to those good friends? Maybe we disguise some gossip as grace. and thus the natural consequence. You know, the kind of friends we're talking about are incredible friendships, friendships that often you want to build a life around. These kind of friendships, this depth of friendships are not, again, you like the Braves, I like the Braves, it's Facebook official. Like, this is a depth of friendship and relationship that just is at the heart of who we want to be as humans, as men and women, right? And so these kind of relationships, you're willing to work details of your life around it. You're willing to make considerations about your employment and where you work because of this kind of relationship. A lot of times, you're willing to decide where you live. Proximity matters in these types of relationships. And so you would be willing to say, goodness, give me the nicest house and the best jobs, but if I don't have what I've got here, man, I would still have a friend, but it would probably be the name of loneliness. Like this kind of depth of friendship is worth holding on to. It's worth attaching yourself to. It's worth saying, hey, there's some things in my life that honestly are important to me, but the truth is, they're replaceable. This kind of friendship, it's not something you just pick up at Walmart or Target or Publix or Kroger or Food Depot or wherever you do your everyday shopping. Like, you just can't find these everywhere. Because these three things are enormously uncommon in friendships. They're uncommon. You might be good or one or the other, but you find a friendship that will challenge you, that will be present regardless of the inconvenience, and that has the ability to give grace and challenge at the same time. Man, no promotion anywhere is worth that. Those kind of relationships, when your life comes to a close, those are the things you will talk about. Those are the kind of things that you will value most. I promise. I've sat with plenty of people as they pass from one life to the next. None of them are talking about their position of power or how much they made in the prime of their life. None of them. None of them are talking about how incredible their house is. None of them are talking about the toys that they accumulated. None of them. Even the people that I sit with who are not followers of Jesus, they don't even talk about it. I'm telling you, this kind of relationship, this is what we need. This is what we need. Good friends, fellowshipping friends. Let me give you a brief summary. And I want you to read the summary. And I really want you to pay attention to every word. Every word matters. I'm going to read it, and then I'm going to actually give you a chance to read it just to yourself. And good friends challenge us to be the best version of ourselves, our present and our times, in our good times and bad, and give grace that we don't deserve. Good friends challenge us to be the best version of ourselves, our present and our good times and bad, and give grace that we don't deserve. Read that again to yourself. Read it off the screen. Read it slow. Does that sound familiar to you? Does that description, does that summary sound familiar to you? Good friends are like Jesus. Good friends are like Jesus. I know that you can have some pretty great friends that aren't like Jesus. But there is a depth, a true depth to relationship that is untouchable, undiscoverable, unthinkable when it comes to friends who are like Jesus. There's just something else about it, to the depth that you can achieve. And that depth comes from a common calling and a common inheritance. And when you take all the superficial things and you begin to pair them with challenge and presence and grace and a calling and an inheritance, that's the answer to friendship. And you should fight and claw and scrap and run and exhaust yourself to find them and hold on to them. It's one of the greatest, most valuable things you will ever come across in your entire life. Good friends.